You just did it again. You picked up your phone, looked at the screen, and put it back down. Nothing had happened. No message, no alert. And yet somewhere in the last few minutes, your hand reached out on its own, turned the glass toward your face, and checked. You didn't decide to. That's the part worth sitting with. You were mid-sentence, mid-thought, mid-conversation, and your hand moved before you had a reason. The reaching came first. The reason, if there was one, arrived late and quiet, like an excuse invented after the fact. Most people call this a habit. Some people call it an addiction. A few call it a lack of willpower and feel a small flush of shame about it. But the real answer is far stranger, and it has almost nothing to do with you. What is happening in your hand right now was designed decades before the phone existed, in a psychology lab using pigeons. Let me show you the machine you are living inside. Start with a simple question. Why do you keep checking something that is usually boring? Because it is. Be honest. Most of the times you look at your phone, there is nothing there. A notification you already saw, an app you already cleared, a screen that offers you the same grid of icons it offered you 90 seconds ago. If checking your phone were reliably rewarding, that would make sense. We chase things that pay us. But it isn't reliable. It pays you almost never. And that almost is the whole trick. In the 1930s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner built a box. Inside it, he placed a hungry animal, usually a rat or a pigeon, and a lever. When the animal pressed the lever, food came out. The animal learned the lever quickly, the way any of us would. Press, eat, simple. But then Skinner changed one thing, and that one change is the reason your hand keeps moving. He made the food unpredictable. Now the lever paid out sometimes. Not every press. Not on any schedule the animal could learn. Press and nothing, press and nothing, press and food, press and nothing, press and food again. There was no pattern to find because the pattern had been deliberately removed. Skinner called this a variable ratio schedule. And here is what he discovered. The animals on the unpredictable reward did not press less. They pressed more. Far more. They pressed like their lives depended on it. Faster and longer than any animal that got fed every single time. Think about how backwards that is. The less reliably the reward came, the harder the animal worked for it. Certainty made them calm. Uncertainty made them frantic. When Skinner's pigeons were rewarded at random, some of them pecked thousands of times an hour and kept pecking long after the food stopped coming entirely. You are the pigeon. The lever is in your pocket. But why? Why would a brain be built to work harder for less? To answer that, you have to go inside the reward itself. To a chemical you have probably heard blamed for all of this. Dopamine. And almost everything you have been told about is slightly wrong. You have likely heard that dopamine is the pleasure chemical. That your phone gives you little hits of it, and you come back for more, like a rat pressing a lever for a drug. It's a tidy story. It's also not quite what the science shows. In the 1990s, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz was recording from single dopamine neurons in the brain, watching exactly when they fired. He expected them to fire at the reward. When the animal got the juice, the dopamine should spike. That was the theory. That is not what happened. The dopamine neurons did fire at the reward, at first. But once the animal learned that a signal predicted the juice, the firing moved. It jumped backward in time, away from the reward itself and onto the cue, the moment of anticipation, the instant just before. And when the reward was expected, but did not come, the dopamine did something remarkable. It dropped. It fell below its normal level like a held breath let out in disappointment. Sit with what that means. Dopamine is not the feeling of getting. It is the feeling of maybe. It is not the reward. It is the reaching for the reward. It tracks the gap between what you expected and what you got. And it burns hottest, not when you win, but when you might. Which brings us to the cruelest detail of all. The neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky described experiments building on Schultz's work, and the finding is almost unbelievable. If you give a reward every single time a signal appears, you get a certain amount of dopamine. But if you give the reward only half the time, unpredictably, the dopamine response does not stay the same. It roughly doubles. The maximum dopamine your brain can produce comes not from the reward, and not from no reward, but from a 50-50 chance, from the pure suspended electric state of not knowing. Your phone is a 50-50 machine. Every time you check it, you are pulling a lever that might pay out. A message from someone you like, a number going up, a piece of news, a joke, a small flare of connection. Most times, nothing. Your brain is not checking because of the something. It is checking because of the maybe. The maybe is the drug. The something is almost beside the point. Now watch how this gets built on purpose. There is an anthropologist named Natasha Dow-Schull who spent 15 years studying the machines that are most perfectly engineered to exploit this loop. Slot machines. She embedded herself in Las Vegas, interviewing designers, gamblers, and the engineers who tune the payouts. What she found was that the goal of a modern slot machine is not to help you win. It is not even, in the short term, to take your money. The goal is to keep you in what the players themselves call the machine zone, a state where time dissolves, the outside world goes quiet, and there is nothing left but the loop. Reach, wait, maybe, again. Shell points out that everything about the machine is shaped to deepen that trance. The rhythm of the spins, the near misses that feel like almost, the way a loss is dressed up with lights and sound to feel like a small win. The machine is not selling you jackpots, it is selling you the zone. And the phone in your hand, she and others have argued, borrows the exact same architecture. The pull to refresh, the dot that might be red, the feed that never ends, so there is no natural moment to stop. You are not meant to arrive anywhere. You are meant to stay in the loop. But here's the twist that turns this from a story about clever design into a story about you. Because the loop is not just something being done to you from the outside. Your own brain has quietly taken over the job. A behavioral scientist named Wendy Wood spent decades studying habits, and one of her findings reframes everything. Roughly 43% of what you do on any given day is not decided in the moment. It is habit. Behavior triggered automatically by a cue, running without a conscious choice, the way you drive a familiar route without remembering the drive. Habits form when a behavior and a reward get paired often enough that the brain stops bothering to consult you. It moves the behavior below awareness to save effort. And the fastest way to burn a habit deep, Wood's work shows, is to reward it unpredictably. Exactly the schedule Skinner found. Exactly the schedule your phone runs. So the reaching becomes automatic. The cue is not even the phone anymore. The cue is a feeling, a flicker of boredom, a half-second of silence in a conversation, a tiny rise of anxiety or uncertainty, or the simple discomfort of an unoccupied mind. And before you have named the feeling, your hand has already answered it. The phone has become the thing you reach for to escape the very restlessness that checking the phone created. The loop feeds itself. You are the pigeon, and you are also the box. This is why willpower feels so useless here. You are not fighting a choice. You cannot out-decide a behavior that was specifically built to run underneath deciding. Every time you resist and check anyway, you are not being weak. You are being a normal human nervous system doing exactly what 100,000 engineers, drawing on 90 years of reinforcement science, designed you to do. The shame is misplaced. The shame was never yours. And yet, knowing this changes something, because the loop has a weakness, and its weakness is attention. The machine zone only works while it is invisible. The habit only runs while it stays below awareness. The moment you catch your hand reaching, and you notice the feeling that sent it, the feeling underneath, the boredom, or the loneliness, or the flicker of unease, the spell thins. You cannot always stop the hand, but you can see it. And seeing it is the one thing the machine was built to prevent. So try this, just once. The next time your hand moves toward your phone for no reason, freeze it halfway. Don't judge it. Just ask what you were feeling 1 second before. Not what is on the screen, what was in you. That small question is the only lever that pays out something real. Because you just did it again. You picked up your phone and put it back down, and nothing had happened. But now you know that the nothing was the point. The reaching was never about the screen. It was about the maybe, an ancient hunger for the unpredictable reward, running on the oldest machinery you own, aimed at a device that learned your weakness better than you know it yourself. The lever is still in your pocket. The only thing that has changed is that for the first time, you can feel your own hand move.